Oh, Rod, how's my audio?
Loud and clear.
Cool.
How are you doing?
Doing okay. So I know Mr. Daly and Mr. Royer will be out for today. As usual, as we're assembling any additional agenda topics. So the one I want to talk about is whether we have roadblocks to development with the way we're doing the open source. So is it slow? Is it cumbersome? Because we have an instance of one of our projects saying they'll develop privately and then contribute it all back. And I also want reactions on that approach. Does that happen often? In open, I mean, I didn't think it did. I thought most people, you know, would fork but merge back frequently. But anyway, that's the topic. I'll repeat it when everyone's here. All right, so we know this one's a miss, and we know this one's a miss. All right, so you saw that I sent the announcement for our new POC chair, which is good. Next week we have a talk on mouse doesn't want to behave. This INSO project. I'll ask for an abstract and send an announcement probably tomorrow, and then another one probably Tuesday. But let everyone know that this will at least be academically interesting. All right. Yeah, we still have people join. I guess I should have waited for 5 minutes, like always. Maybe we should put the official start time at 7:05 and see if people roll in at 7:10 in that case. So Sridhar, can we change the start time to 7:05?
We
No,
can
I'm
do
serious. Can we?
that.
Yeah.
No,
Change.
are you serious or you're joking?
Well, we always seem to have to wait till 7:05 for people to switch meetings, and I've seen many other meetings do that.
Yeah, yeah.
But I don't, and it serves two purposes. One, we never start till 7:05 anyway. Two,
Yeah.
it'd be interesting to see if we set it at 7:05 if people are rolling in at 7:10 to 7:15. I mean, we always have like one of those people which is fine, but uh you know,
Yeah.
the reality is if people are in back-to-backs, that oftentimes meetings run over because sometimes
Correct.
start slow and then heat up and you end up in the most interesting discussion with 5 minutes to go. And it's like, okay, this is just Zoom stuff, right? This is just the way the world works. So maybe we officially start at 7:05 now. And that way I don't start talking while people are arriving. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, go ahead and change the official start to 7:05 and have it end at 7:55 so that we can give time for people to get to their next meeting. And I'll make sure we end on time. But don't start it until, I don't know, we'll do it next week. We'll start at 7. We'll leave it at 7, but maybe the week after. All right. So I have one. Okay. So Justine Cherry from CMU is going to talk about INSA next week. I'm going to get an abstract from her and send an announcement on all of our forms of communication. Laura Hendrickson is now our POC and Dev Platform working group chair. So again, I sent the announcement for that. So congratulations, Laura. We want to talk about development within the OPI open source repos and framework. In other words, do we have barriers to development that would cause people to do a full development privately and then contribute it back? Or is that an okay way for an open source project to work? Because we have one of our efforts where that's been stated. And that's what they want to do. So I don't know if we think that's reasonable, if that's unreasonable, and what the reaction to that should be. And this is the Intel Ericsson project. I mean, I wish Dan Daly were here so we could discuss it directly with him on the reasoning. Mark, you're here. It's been discussed with the maintainers, I believe, is how it came out, correct?
No, it came out in a private message to the group that's working on the PFC, which I'm one of them, and Morris is one of the others, and there's several others from Ericsson and Intel.
Okay, so it's not a private message, it's a message to a subgroup that's working on the project.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not like, yeah.
Right. It's a channel that's just set up between the group that's working on it.
Okay, and was there reasoning? Yeah, Venkat, I'll give you time in a second. So, and the statement was that they're going to take the code, they're basically going to fork, do a bunch of development, finish, and then contribute it back. And is that a reasonable way to work? Is one of the questions. And again, if somebody did that and just contributed a bunch of stuff without telling anyone, would anyone know? So is it okay? Or is it, no, we ought to work within the framework that we have, the open source we have set up? And if so, are there barriers to doing that work that are would hinder people making progress? All right, Venkat.
Well, I think reviewing the reasons is important, but it does happen because one of the reasons I've seen is, you have a proprietary code, you don't want to expose your IP, and then, it takes some time, all sorts of internal reviews happen. So if there is valid reason, that is fine. The other issue, the problem that I've seen typically is that if you make too much progress without aligning with the common code base, either APIs or something else, it could digress quite a bit. So I think when somebody develops, in private, the review process has to be a little more rigorous, just to make sure that it's not changing something. And it does happen within companies also, even it's not even across, right? Somebody goes off for various reasons. So I think if we put some checks and balances around it, it's fine. But again, understanding the reason directly from the folks who are doing it makes it even easier, I think.
And so, Mark, is there any additional information? Was there any reason stated?
No, there was no reason other than they just wanted to make quicker progress, and they felt that it was going to cause problems on the CI models, and they figured they were going to break a bunch of stuff when they did this. Which that's the concerning aspect I think that Morris raised.
Right.
If I may, I think
Please.
that it's a little bit contradictory to what we're trying to achieve here. I mean, they presented a few ideas over calls. We said, great, let's work on it together. They didn't come back to us, and now they're saying they'll develop in a silo and then contribute the end result if the end result makes sense. So basically, they're developing their own things that make sense for them, and then they'll contribute it. And if we can use it, great. If not, then okay. And I don't think that's the idea of OPI at all, to be honest. I mean, that's the old way of doing it. I mean, it's great that they want to contribute at the end of the day, but what they'll contribute will probably be a subset of what they've actually done. So they're basically just developing their own things and then adding whatever they want to OPI, or contributing whatever they want to OPI. And that's not the idea. The idea is to define together, work on it together, and release together, not everybody to be siloed. So I'm sorry, I don't like it.
Right. Other thoughts and opinions? I mean, I guess, so the way we have the repos set up and the process for doing the work, is there an undue burden in that, in anyone's opinion? And if you think it is, it's okay. I mean, again, it wasn't set up with malice, but we could have accidentally ended up there, just, or inadvertently ended up there is maybe more correct. And, we can do correction as a group, right? We can make the decision on how we want to operate. So to work within the repos, for those of you who've actually directly contributed, is there any roadblock to using the repos, having a branch? Again, you can do a branch within the repo and it tracks, right? It's not everybody else is on main. That would be ridiculous.
No.
But
so the way it works is typically people fork, right? When you work in your own repo to make the forked version, and then you contribute back from the fork directly into the main. The burden that we found in it, and it's common and we're working on trying to correct it, is when you work on the APIs, there's an auto generation that occurs as part of the process, and you have to generate the files and then check them in, which is somewhat burdensome because you'll fail the CI processes if you don't do it. And we're trying to right now change that over to where the contributors don't have to generate those files and then check them in. There'll be an auto generation function that will do that for them. And it's going to go into a separate tagged repo that will contain the files that you use to link and build against. But that's still in process because it's going to take a while to get all of the APIs moved over to that framework.
Oh, okay.
But we've already found that that's a burden, and that's why we're trying to fix it. But right now we know how to work it, so everybody knows that there's actually just a make file that you can run that'll auto generate all the files for you, and then you just got to check them in. It's easy, but we're trying to make it even simpler than that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's okay. Got it. Anything else or opinions from anyone else? I mean, so I mean, my opinion is
Did we lose Joe?
I
Yeah,
think so. I cannot hear him.
just when
Yeah,
he started
okay.
speaking, he dropped out.
Yeah, I thought for a minute it was me. I think we just lost Joe. Yep.
oh,
Okay, you're back now, Joe.
looks like my Zoom reset. I said so I don't know where I dropped out, but
You were just starting to speak, so you got to start over again.
okay. Okay. So my opinion on this is that I would rather see the development, even if it's a subset of a full project. So if it's, code you're not going to contribute plus code you are, that the code you are should go into the repos. Because you don't know if somebody else was thinking about doing this a similar thing and go, oh, I'll just use that, or I'll contribute to that and make it better. So anything that's going to be contributed ought to be done in the repos. If there's a roadblock to doing the development, it should be removed. That's my opinion on how it should work, right? And so I think what we'll do is have the conversation with that sub project in that way and say, what's the is there any substantive problem? And if so, we'll just fix it.
The
And
other thing we could recommend to them also is that they could create a branch on the main repo and they could work in the branch.
well, they should. Again, they should
I know.
fork. They
Well,
should.
they could fork. Yeah, they could fork into their own, but they could also create a branch if they want to kind of do things slightly independent, but still have it out there.
No, that's what I was saying earlier. Is branching is the way to go to do parallel development.
Yeah.
And that way, again, if somebody wants to contribute or leverage that code, they can. And it also, and if I would, if I suddenly get a crazy idea and, get a couple of people to do development that happens to be in a related space, I know how not to step on toes because I can see what's there. So I know not to, redevelop the same API, things like that. I mean, there are a lot of reasons why you want to use the common repo branching model for development as opposed to fork and merge, 6 months later or 3 months later or a year later, or whatever it would be. This is it's almost the case of and again, if you're worried about, oh, well, we're going to do a build in a particular way, yeah, you can still do that. I mean, there can be a repo for building the system in a particular way. And again, the point is common code really should be common and visible because that's the most utility and value. And I think it's important not to overreact to this sort of thing and have the discussion on what's the right way to approach this. So, all right, so we'll have to have that discussion. Any other thoughts on this topic? Or I mean, if you think I'm off or misstating or don't like that idea or anything like that, speak up, because having the discussion is important. And you're not going to bother me in my day job. I'm in arguments every day, and they don't bother me. So
Well, there's nobody from that project to talk to us right now, so it's
no,
hard,
but
hard to have the argument.
yeah. So Tim, I mean, in general, on the approach and mindset that OPI overall should have regarding, all these parallel projects.
So I generally agree with your position on it. I don't know that we can make anybody do it that way. We can just ask them to.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yes, exactly. We can't, there's no force that can be applied. It's the case with almost all open source projects. It's you have to appeal to people's I don't know, better nature. I don't, that's one of the phrases used, that, hey, the spirit of the thing is that it should be collaborative and open, and so on. That's
Yeah,
good.
I mean, with their approach, they're basically reducing the amount of collaboration, right, to just the people who are in their little project.
That's right.
Which maybe they think they'll get more speed for that. Maybe they can move faster. But
Well, they're not even pulling people in that are in the thread. They're just going to do it between Intel and Ericsson.
But they are at least interested in having some interlock with OPI at some point, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Right. And again, that's why it's a conversation about, so, and again, the reason for bringing this up is because, there could be the feeling that, that's the way things ought to be done. And in the end, we might get some code out of it, but it'd be more of a hodgepodge than it is now, if I believe. Although again, take the opposite point of view if you want. I mean, you can always do devil's advocate and say, okay, I don't necessarily believe this, but here's a devil's advocate position that says why you would want to do it the other way.
Yeah, I think we can have that conversation with them if they'll listen to it. But on the plus side, we should encourage companies that want to throw developers at OPI and DPU projects. So.
Absolutely, that's right. That's why this is a non-drama way of handling it. If I can use, speech, I probably shouldn't because I'm too old for it. Merchant.
Yeah, I'm actually not understanding the problem because I always do it the other way. I always fork API TSC repo. I invite the two guys in my team to be my collaborators in my fork. We do the document or whatever we do there for the demo, and then I make a PR back into API. So as long as they are keep making PRs back, that's fine. Maybe the problem is if they make a PR in 2 years from now with millions of lines of code, then that will be like, who the heck is going to review that? But I'm okay with them working in a different fork, repo, whatever, as long as they have some schedule of contributing things that can be, I don't know, reviewed. I mean, decent size.
Okay. Yeah, like I say, that I wanted to hear the argument on the other side. So
yeah,
branch and merge is one way, keeping everything in the repo sort of going along, and fork and merge is the other way. And you're right, as long as the fork is not too long, maybe it's not too bad, or at least that's an interesting viewpoint.
I mean, I think the GitHub way is to fork, work on your stuff, and keep contributing back. Because otherwise you have to manage giving me rights to edit in OPI, GitHub. You have a bunch of other problems to handle. So I'm okay with forking and so on. I think the problem is how often they contribute back. Because if they make the PRs, let's say weekly, then community can review and give some feedback and say, hey guys, no, this makes sense, this doesn't. I think the problem is if they come, like I said, with, you know, million lines of code after 2 years and they try to contribute, is that's a problem, because it's like, okay, what feedback are you giving and who's going to review that quantity? So I think the problem is not where they work, the problem is how often they contribute.
Yeah, we need to understand their contribution plan for, you know, PRing back in from their isolated repo that they want to set up.
All right, so on that thread, Mark, since I'm not on that thread, would you mind typing up just a few sentences on, you know, this viewpoint and say we'd like to discuss it?
Yeah, I'll put out their requests so we can
And
discuss
TSC.
it, and then I'll ask them what their contribution plan is.
Yeah, well, and
through the cycle.
Yeah, and you know, again, and you know, I don't want to be overly restrictive. I mean, I sort of like I like repo branch. I mean, so yeah, I know Git has multiple ways you can work, and it's a social engineering that decides the way you work, right? Git's very, very flexible. Mr. Torvalds said originally, you know, I can't solve team structure problems. All I can do is give you a set of tools that are extremely flexible. And if you want to hang yourself with, you know, use tools. If you want a certain structure of authority, Git can accommodate that. If you want a different one, Git can accommodate that. If you want a fully decentralized, massive number of forks that sort of interact in complicated ways, and you think that's the way to make progress, go for it. I mean, he you know, he made very strong statements about Git not imposing process on you. Git gives you tools, not process. And you know, we've never really had the what process do we really want to follow, because we had, you know, relatively few contributors and relatively little complexity. But that's something we ought to agree as to how the work gets done, right? I mean,
I think you can look to the models in other standards communities for that. Ultimately, I know that IETF has pretty heavyweight, not heavyweight, but they have a lot of conversation around that, and also there are other working groups where I see full-on process in that space. So I know that it'd be really easy probably to model it after another working group.
Yeah, we could definitely.
I mean, I hear about it from how they do it in TC39 for ECMA. I hear about it how they do it at IETF. And IETF might be a decent model for us, considering the space that those guys are in. I mean, they all have ways that they request change controls, but right now we're not heavyweight enough, I think, for that. There isn't enough there are enough people in our communities, right? So we have to build out that interstitial situation first, and then or at the same time build out the process.
Yeah, and you know, IETF doesn't do code, right? They do essentially document standards and anybody can put something in, but which ones sort of get approved is up to a complicated hierarchy of you know, working area groups and working groups.
Yeah, it might be it's probably too heavyweight for what we're doing right now, but might not be in the future. But you know, that all sort of, let's see how it plays out, is really the bigger
yeah, and they also, you know, again, IETF, you know, works very much in parallel and and there are RSCs that no one's in their right mind is ever going to implement.
Yeah, I'm just saying that there's process. This problem has been solved, right?
Yeah.
So I think we would just leverage the work that somebody that's already sort of stubbed their toe on that door has solved, right? Like they,
Yeah, if somebody has a process they think would be good to solve this collaborative coding, beyond just, using Git and having a bunch of repos and maintainers.
I can ask the guys that I know contributed ECMA, I mean, a TC39, so.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
apologies, but I have to drop off right now.
No, it's fine.
We have an internal meeting. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Okay. All right. Any other thoughts? Okay, so that was my only topic for today. Next week we have we're gonna have the really nice presentation. Like I said, I'll get an abstract and send an announcement out for that. Try to get the widest possible attendance. And anyway, thank you for your thoughts, and we'll meet again next week.